Namaste. Welcome to the next edition of Dharma Tales. Let's debate. It's really very interesting that how even kings very easily give up dharma for the sake of their own kith and kin. They are supposed to be the upholders of dharma. Still, they go against the very nature of what a king is supposed to stand for. In this story, yet another episode from Mahabharata, we are going to see a very interesting story which shares a lot of insights into the turbulent nature of a king who is emotionally swayed towards his children, which makes him move away from what he should be standing for, which is Dharma. After the death of Pandu, the father of Pandavas, they spend a lot of time in the forest and then later they come back to Hastinapur. After all, it was Pandu who was ruling the kingdom because Dhritarashtra was not supposed to be fit to be a ruler because of his physical disabilities. When Pandavas come back, at some point of time, it is very clear that he might have to hand over the kingdom to the natural heir of the throne, which is none other than Yudhishthir, who is even much elder to Duryodhan, who is the first son of Dhritarashtra. Somehow he is unable to accept. His mind is in turmoil. And when Duryodhan is easily trapped into a deceit of having to kill the Pandavas so that their claim for the throne need not be entertained. And this is done by none other than Shakuni, their own maternal uncle. He builds up a story, and over a period of time, he poisons the mind of his father that if he doesn't do it, he'll never be able to be a king. And with all the emotional dramas and turmoils, finally, reluctantly, Dhritarashtra, even in a literal sense, decides to turn a blind eye to what is going to unfold. And then the drama unfolds. In one of the days when Yudhishthir and the other Pandavas are present in the court as part of the day to day process, Duryodhan very cleverly brings up the topic of a festival which is going to happen to make gods happy in a nearby place called Varnavatam. He says that Yudhishthir, being the eldest of the family in among the children, he should represent the entire family and do the pujas and pray for the entire family. Yudhishthir is able to sense something, but when Dhritarashtra himself tells him to go over to Varnavadam, where all facilities are going to be made for a very comfortable stay for the Pandavas and their mother Kunti. This story happens much before the marriage of Draupadi to the Pandavas. Before this, there is an evil friend of Duryodhan called Purochan, who has been given the task of preparing a palace which is made of completely flammable materials. The main one being lacquer, along with that, oil, ghee. Every material that has been made is initially inside out filled up with these flammable materials. And then it's given a beautiful coat on top. And then they use some kind of perfumes to ensure that the smell of the lacquer and other materials don't come out. The idea is that Purochan would one of the days set fire to the palace and ensure that the entire Pandavas, including Kunti, are killed. Since they don't yet have any progenies, it would be the end of Pandavas and things would completely turn in favor of Kauravas. And they can annex and keep the kingdom once and for all without having to go for war with Pandavas. Since it's a command from his uncle, his father's elder brother, Yudhishthir, the Pandavas, and Kunti set out of Hastinapur. By this time, Duryodhan has done enough good deeds to keep people of Hastinapur happy. He is lavish in his gifts and comforts to all the people because they all like the Pandavas and they don't want any suspicion to take place in the minds of the subjects of the kingdom. When Yudhishthir and the Pandavas and Kunti are about to leave the Hastinapur city, Vidur, the third brother of the Pandava and Dhritarashtra, he comes and then he forewarns Yudhishthir that this is what is going to happen. Be careful. He forewarns them. And now Yudhishthir's doubt is confirmed. Now they derive and make a master plan of how to convert this into an advantage. They go to the wax palace made of lacquer and all those things. But with the help of one of the friends of Vidur who arrives there, they build a secret tunnel for a period of time, which only they would know how to get out and when to get out. And to ensure that while this is happening, that others don't get any suspicion, they are being very kind to Purochan and behave in such a way that Purochan doesn't get any doubt whatsoever in his mind that Pandavas have found out the game plan. He even sent secret messages to Duryodhan that the job is about to be done. But the only main challenge is that Bhim, who is a late night baby, as they would say, he doesn't sleep at all. It's part of the plan again of Yudhishthir. They take turns. Bhim doesn't sleep in the night. He's roaming around the palace as if he's happy and all that. And because he is available, awake, and aware, Purochan is unable to set his plan of setting the palace into fire. After sufficient time has passed, there are various versions. One version says that in fact Pandavas stayed there for almost close to a year. A time comes when Pandavas are completely ready with their runaway plan. By this time, a tribal woman, along with her 5 children, come to the palace on some work. And it is on the idea of Beam that these people are made to stay back. And it was decided by Purochan by this time that in the coming new moon day, when it will be completely dark, he will set the palace on fire. Somehow this message reaches Yudhishthir. And what he does is that they preempt the plan. 1 day or 2 days prior to the plan, what they actually do is they drug the children through the food, the children, their mother, and even sort of Purochan in a way. And then what happens is they just set the palace on fire. And then they escape through the secret tunnel that they had actually made. It is said that Beam, being the strongest of all, he helps all of them to go through the tunnel, literally carrying all of them on his shoulder, literally all of them on his shoulder through the forest. And he is said to have walked more than a day in keeping the Pandavas away. And after a very, very long time, only the later part of time only Kauravas actually come to know. But after this incident, some of the message reaches Duryodhan. Purochin is able to escape the fire, but whereas the five children and the tribal woman gets killed, the message goes that that is nothing but Kunti and the five Pandavas who have been killed. Kauravas are extremely happy. The message goes to Dhritarashtra also that the children have died. He is caught in a dilemma. He was emotionally blackmailed by Duryodhan into making Pandavas to buy into this story of having to go for this festival, where the palace is built specifically for them, which is supposed to become the death trap for them. And he even performs the final rituals. What happens after this is an interesting story which we'll see later. But the point, the dharmic question is, how can a king, how much ever be the emotional swing and sway played by his children, accept to kill his own brother's children, and that too for the sake of just a piece of kingdom? Is it what dharmic equation is about? Is it isn't it something that we see even in day-to-day affairs of everyone's life today? For personal gains of our own family, many times we give up the dharmic values, dharmic questions and equations, which are supposed to play a larger part in our thinking process. There is a twist to the tale. If you might remember in one of the earlier stories I had shared, when Ashwatthama sets blaze to the entire Pandavas and their family and their army and all that on the night of the 18th, you might recall that five of the children of Pandavas actually get killed in the process. It is said that actually this is a karmic twist, that Bhim, who wanted to cover up the act of their escape, having brought in the tribal woman and the five children of the tribal woman, is paid back in the same coin, where their own five children are killed on that night on 18th. There are dharmic lessons from this, equations from this that we have to learn, both from the mistakes that Pandavas might have committed or by the mistakes that Dhritarashtra committed, or the cunningness of Shakuni and Duryodhan, where just a matter of a throne becomes a divisive factor between brothers who are supposed to be united and stay together. Don't you find this even today in the world where people fight for a property, fight for a share in something, fight for material which they want to pick up from their own blood relations? A lot to learn, a lot to share. Go to the comments box, share all your views about this story, the lessons that you have learned, and the dharmic connections, the dharmic questions that come up. Dharma Tales, let's debate. Till we meet again, this is Prakash signing off.